on Eating Well for WM, Navigating Nourishment for People with Cancer. We have Laura Pohl here today, and I also want you to know that Laura had joined us last year for a wellness webinar, which we have on our website too, so be sure to check that out, but we're really excited to have her here with us in person today. So thanks, Laura. Happy to have you here.
This might be a little different from what you've been sitting through this afternoon, so it's kind of a nice thing to end the day up with. I am excited to be here to talk with you about eating well with WM, and I'm not focusing on nutrition. I'm not a dietitian. I'm an oncology nurse, a health supportive chef, a culinary translator, and a musician, and we're going to focus on nourishment rather than nutrition. Doesn't nourishment sound much better than nutrition? Yeah. So because I am a musician, I'd like to start with a high-fiber, low-fat song. It was written in the 1990s, so a lot of the low-fat, stuff is gone out the window, right? But anyway, it's still a lot of fun, so let's get started. Oh, it didn't do. The song didn't work. Because it's on a different mic. Okay. No. All right. This egg comes from a happy chicken. A little louder.
Honey, brew up some coffee. I got a new treat for you. It's gonna make our loving last. Our hearts will beat like new. It's old bran muffin. Old bran muffin. Put it in the oven for lifelong loving. Old bran muffins. Well, I used to be a ham and cheese omelet girl with a bagel cream cheese too. But if you want to have fun past 31, then you gotta make a change or two. So toss out that tub of butter, T-bone steak and eggs, whip up the bran and the egg beaters. Honey, don't make me beg. Give me those old bran muffins. Old bran muffins. Put them in the oven for lifelong loving. Old bran muffins.
Now here's my band
Now,
name.
Laura, I know that a muffin alone won't keep that doctor away. So here's my solution. Let's join that revolution, and we'll start a brand new day.
He loves puns.
We'll start with old bran crunch for breakfast. Then it's old bran bread at noon. We'll have old bran tofu, meatless loaf, and have a bathroom built for two.
Give me those old bran muffins.
Old bran muffins. Put them in the oven for lifelong loving. Old bran muffins.
Now this really is my band playing behind me in a box.
Now, ever since we learned this song from Mr. Steve Key, we have become true believers in oat bran.
Amen.
And we believe that if he had used it, Elvis Presley would be alive and with us today. For real. And he'd be singing this song. Sing it, Elvis.
Oh, bran muffins. Oh, bran muffins. Oh, bran muffins. Oh, bran muffins. It don't hurt me at all, 'cause it lowers my cholesterol.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. A hunk of burning muffin. You can touch these glasses afterwards if you'd like. I like to start with that rather unrefined song to remind us that our diets and so much of the way we live has become too refined, and we've lost the fiber of life and a lot of other things. So what I'd like to talk with you about today is eating well to improve your health and to make your body less hospitable to cancer. I'm going to give you some healthy principles of food selection. I'm going to do a demo here, and I hope that there will be at least two people in the audience who are willing to help me out with that. That will be later on. And I'll give you some resources to help you take it from here. So I work for a couple of organizations. They're sister organizations. One of them is Commonweal, and we have a website called Cancer Choices, which provides information and guidance for free on integrative cancer care. That is the combination of complementary therapies and lifestyle practices alongside conventional cancer treatment. And this is one of our pages, one of our handbooks on eating well. You're going to get a copy of this handout digitally, I guess, and you'll be able to click on where you see hot links, and it'll take you to that page, for instance. And at Cancer Choices, we talk about the 7 lifestyle healing practices. And one of these, of course, is eating well, and of course, that's what I'm focusing on today. My 4 guiding principles. There are no good or bad foods. Foods just give information. Now, what do I mean by that? I'll give myself as an example. Though soy might be a health-supportive food for many people, they call it the king of beans. I can't eat soy. I'm sensitive to it. And I found that out because when I eat it, I get very loud information about from soy. So I use that to tell me the discomfort and the bowel growls tell me this is not a food I am going to eat because I'm sensitive to it. You can't eat dogma, all right? Because how many people were diagnosed with WM or anything else, and people start coming out of the woodwork, say, eat this special food, eat this diet, go down to this clinic. What you need for you right now might be different from what you need at another time in your life, or different from what someone else with cancer might need. So you have to work with someone who can help you figure out what you need right now. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants. If you don't remember any other 3 phrases I say today, this is the most important from Michael Pollan. And somebody hopefully told you to eat your vegetables, but if they didn't, I'm going to say it today. Eat your vegetables. I'm going to tell you how to make them taste good. He doesn't think it tastes good. But anyway. So in general, what we're looking at, a plant-based diet is the general dietary advice for general health, many chronic illnesses, including cancer. You may get more specific than that, but Mediterranean diet is an example of plant-based. Plant-based means eating foods that come from plants, vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, beans, grains. I probably left something out, but there's a lot of choices in there. And it doesn't mean it's strictly from plants, but mostly plants. Modifying terrain. Have you ever heard that term, terrain, with respect to one's internal environment? If you're from Europe, you've probably heard it more than we hear it here. But modifying your terrain or your internal environment is one of the most important things any of us can do for our general well-being, and also to make the body less hospitable to cancer. So using a gardening analogy, I love to garden. Think of cancer as the seed of a poisonous weed, a weed you don't want, and the garden as the terrain, that your internal terrain that the seed is in. And if you modify your terrain to where it's balanced for health, it will make it more difficult for that cancer or that weed, so to say, to thrive. And we'll be talking about it. So when you optimize your health through balancing your terrain, it can improve your well-being, even if it doesn't affect the cancer, and it might help to prevent and manage symptoms. And someone talked about watchful waiting this morning, And I've spoken with some nurses who work with folks who have WM, and they talk about that, where you might not be having symptoms or you're not going to be needing treatment, but we're going to keep monitoring you. So they call that watchful waiting. Well, I like to think of what you could do is have active holistic surveillance, where you're not just waiting for something to happen, but you're keeping your health up. So some key terrain imbalances and links to diet. There are many factors of the terrain, but I'll focus on 3 of them. One is, what's the state of your blood sugar and insulin, inflammation, and dysbiosis, which is the imbalance of your microbiome, all those microorganisms. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of these. So here's a page on cancer choices. We have a whole section of handbooks on managing terrain or optimizing terrain, so you can get the link to that page from here. So sugar and its connection to cancer. I constantly hear people say, oh, sugar feeds cancer, to the point where they're freaked out and don't want to have anything that's sweet. So let's talk a little bit about that. When I say sugar, I'm not just talking about white table sugar. I'm talking about what they call high glycemic load carbohydrates, like really starchy carbohydrates, really sweet carbohydrates. Your tropical fruits are very sweet, for instance. Potatoes, things like that, white bread. So that's what we're talking about, not just table sugar. You may have heard the term glycemic index and glycemic load. So glycemic index is really just a measure in the lab of what's the effect of this food on your blood sugar. Like, believe it or not, carrots have a high glycemic index because they have sweet juice. If you just juice a carrot, the juice tastes really sweet. But the carrot has a lot of fiber with it too. So if you eat a whole carrot as opposed to drinking the carrot juice, it's not going to have that high of an effect on your blood sugar, because that fiber is going to slow that carrot sugars from moving through your system and getting taken up as glucose into your blood. So glycemic load is really the more important thing to think about. And you don't have to go around thinking, oh, what's the glycemic load of this? But just to understand, how much of that carbohydrate are you going to eat? Is it going to be a little bit or a whole lot all at once? Are you going to eat it by itself? I don't know if you've ever done a snack in the afternoon. Maybe you have a muffin. And you get kind of a sugar high and then you slump. But if you eat that carbohydrate food, or maybe it's a banana, if you eat it by itself, you'll get a sugar rush. If you eat it with some like peanut butter, you see people put peanut butter on their bananas, or you might have a piece of toast, but you put some almond butter on it, or you eat some cheese. So when you eat the fat and the fiber with it and some protein, it will slow it down. So think of a dump truck. If it was full of a carbohydrate, a high glycemic load carbohydrate, and you dumped it all in your system all at once, that's going to have a greater effect than if you eat little bits here and there, and with some other types of foods. So this list might not surprise you, foods that are moderate to high in their glycemic load. But believe it or not, I made some muffins for my tenant the other day that have no grain flours. I use almond flour, so there's no carbohydrate in that. And I use lentils in it, and that increased the protein and the fiber in it. And I put a few little dark chocolate chips, and I think they had bananas in them too. But you can make even some of these foods a little bit healthier. Some of these moderate to high glycemic load foods might surprise you. Like, oh, well, I thought whole wheat bread is a good thing to eat. Well, it's better than eating white bread. But when you grind up a flour, like to make pasta or to make bread, whether it's a whole grain flour or a refined grain, when you grind it up, it makes it so much easier for your body to extract the sugar out of it and raise your blood sugar really high. So I mentioned sprouted grain bread. That kind of bread you might have seen as Ezekiel bread. It's usually in the frozen section. when they sprout a grain and they don't grind it up, they mash it down somehow, and they make bread out of it, and it's actually pretty good, that has a lower glycemic load than if you ate whole wheat bread that's made from ground up flour. I don't want you to remember this number, but I'm going to show you a couple of slides that give you what we're talking about. So about 100 or less is the glycemic load you want to aim for in a day. But if you drank 4 8-ounce Cokes with high fructose corn syrup in it, your glycemic load for the day is already blown out of the water, 136. And it's highly inflammatory. Whereas if you had drink water for your hydration, then you have a little treat with a strawberry almond butter smoothie. It has a very low glycemic load. In fact, almond butter has no carbohydrate in it, so it has no glycemic load. And both of these foods are mildly anti-inflammatory. Just giving you some alternatives. So what are the connections of sugar and cancer? Well, cancer cells, you know what characterizes them is that they're constantly dividing, right, and making more of themselves. And when a cell is in the process of dividing, it needs a lot of energy. So that is why they consume more glucose. They need that for energy to divide. When you have glucose in your blood, glucose, the pancreas gets stimulated to release insulin. And insulin takes that glucose and it brings it to the cells, normal cells, cancer cells, and it helps put it in the cells. When it gives glucose to a cell, it likes to give growth hormone. Now, that's not such a great thing, right, when you're trying to deal with something that's growing uncontrollably. Also, this can contribute to inflammation, as we showed in that other slide. Eat too much, really too much of anything and everything, that can lead to obesity. And if you continually, steadily overconsume these types of foods, you could get insulin resistance. Have you heard that word? Yeah, so what it is, I said that insulin puts glucose in the cells. So it's doing them a favor. Hey, I'm giving you some energy. But the cells that have control over themselves, normal cells, will get to a point where they know they don't need any more glucose. I have all I need, right? And so they say, no, I am resisting you, insulin. I don't need any more glucose. But the cancer cells are like over here, hey, I do. I'll take some. So normal cells become resistant when they don't need any more glucose. They become insulin resistant. And what happens with insulin resistance in human studies and animal studies, when there's a persistently high blood sugar level, you get reduced survival, higher risk of recurrence, more post-op complications. There is immune system suppression and higher risk of infection. And those of you who are on chemo or are immunosuppressed for whatever reason, this could be a real problem. And it can increase the estrogen that's circulating in your blood that could feed estrogen-dependent tumors. And you're going to get a copy of all these slides, by the way. You're welcome to take pictures of them. I don't care, but you'll get a copy. And Einstein once said, don't memorize anything you can look up. So you'll have a copy of this. So what's left to eat? Well, that's going to come in a little bite. So let's talk about inflammation, which is another terrain factor. When you cut yourself, there's a normal process of inflammation that happens. And the body detects, ooh, there's a cut here. I'm going to send blood there right away. And this blood is going to contain white blood cells that are going to kill anything that's trying to come in to the body. It's going to send things that make the blood clot so you don't keep bleeding from this cut. It's going to send things that make the tissues come back together again. And it's going to get red and swollen and painful for a little while. And that is normal. We could not exist without acute inflammation. Inflammation is actually a part of your immune system. But when you have this going on chronically somewhere in your body, cancer loves those chemicals of inflammation. and it will use it to its own advantage. So that's why inflammation can be a problem in cancer. Here is our handbook on inflammation, so you can look at it a little bit more. So what kinds of foods or diets are related to chronic inflammation? Well, our sad, standard American diet, and I know there are some folks here from across the pond, so the standard Western diet with lots of sugary and diet drinks and refined grains and processed meats and not enough cruciferous or yellow-orange veggies. Anybody wondering what a cruciferous vegetable is? So I have some broccoli here and some kale. Cruciferous because if you look in the leaves, it has a crucifix shape in the leaves. That's why they're called that. A little fact. I had to pay a lot of money to learn that. Okay. And also, a high-fat diet contributes to inflammation. If you eat a high-fat fast food breakfast like Egg McMuffin, not to pick on McDonald's, Hardee's, one of their sausage biscuits with gravy on it, that can increase inflammatory substances in your blood for about 3 to 4 hours. And what if your lunch has similar kinds of foods, and your snack and your dinner? So that's like 16 hours a day you got this stuff floating around in your body. Some other things that fan the fires of inflammation, when you get fat around your abdominal organs, they call that visceral fat in the medical world. One doctor I know calls it angry fat. But that fat is not just there to just be there to add weight and girth. It has chemicals in it that are pro-inflammatory. Smoking is hugely inflammatory. And periodontal disease can cause inflammatory problems, including heart problems, if you have periodontal disease. But basically, the point is inflammation, chronic, going on somewhere all the time, can be a problem. So what foods help quench the fires of inflammation? In general, I know you don't want to hear this, fruits and vegetables and whole grains and leafy greens and avocados and all those plant foods I told you about. Many of these foods have magnesium in them, which one can be very calming to the nerves, and also magnesium reduces inflammatory substances in the blood. And a lot of people who are super stressed out, none of us are, right, have low magnesium levels. So sometimes it's helpful to have a little magnesium on board. Turmeric, which is that orange spice that stains everything, delicious when used in certain types of cooking, is anti-inflammatory. A lot of the cold-pressed oils, like olive oil, there are several choices here. And wild-caught salmon are other fatty fish that live in deep waters. I'm not talking about farm-raised salmon because they eat corn, and I don't know any fish down in the deep water that has a stand of corn, feeding them. But wild-caught fish. We are what they eat. They are what they eat. If a salmon eats corn, which is inflammatory, or a cow eats corn, it's not normal for them to eat that. Their fat and their tissues become more of an inflammatory fat. But if they eat krill and all the other things they're supposed to eat down there, then they develop a healthier omega-3 type of fat. Believe it or not, when you open your spice cabinet, you've got a little culinary medicine cabinet as well. So NF-kappa B is often called cancer's major switch. It's a protein complex in your body, and it does so many things to spawn cancer processes, be it growing or metastasizing, and it also is a huge factor in inflammation. So it turns on a lot of things that cause inflammation. So these spices not only help your food taste delicious, give it a personality, but they also can inhibit NF-kappa B. So how about that right there in your spice cabinet? You're seeing the same list of foods over and over again, so you don't have to eat something different to control your blood sugar than you eat to control inflammation and to help your microbiome, which I'll be talking about in a moment. in fact, right now. Your microbiome. So you have more cells of microorganisms in your body, way more than you have your own human cells in your body. So we're home to trillions of microorganisms. Many of them live in your gut, and a lot of your immune system components are also around your gut. And these, they're not just there to make you think of your gut as a gutter, but really to think of it as a garden, because we are eating for trillions. And these microorganisms co-evolved with us, and they share this symbiotic relationship with us. How many of you would think about being mean to the person who feeds you and takes care of you and gets you around the world? So they want to take care of you, because if you're thriving, they're thriving. So they do all sorts of things to help us, like keep the gut wall integrity intact. They signal to each other, and it affects your metabolism, inflammation, your nerves, your immunology, your host defenses, and I was going to try to sneak it in here, your microbiome, certain types of microorganisms and a balance of your microbiome can help with immunotherapy, when I was looking at some of the treatments in the last talk. So some of the therapies used for WM are immunotherapies. They haven't figured it all out yet, so I'm not saying run down to the store if you're on rituximab and go and buy some any old probiotics. I suggest you work with someone who knows about this, but I guarantee you, you're going to see more and more and more about this, particularly with regards to immunotherapy. So one thing you can do through diet without getting fancy and getting probiotics is eating foods that are naturally probiotics. So reseeding the garden, putting in microorganisms. So miso is a fermented food, naturally fermented sauerkraut, naturally fermented pickles, yogurt, turn it around, make sure it's not loaded with sugar, and make sure it has live active cultures. Kombucha, if it's not pasteurized. So a lot of the kombucha you get in the stores are pasteurized, but they really sometimes caution people who have suppressed immune systems not to drink raw kombucha. And then kefir is another fermented food. The other thing you want to do, in addition to reseeding, putting microorganisms into your gut, is feed the ones that you have. They're depending on us to feed them. And they love cruciferous vegetables and beans. And when they eat these kinds of foods, they make this short-chain fatty acid called butyric acid that has so many helpful effects in us you just can't even imagine. So it doesn't matter what you eat. That's why I went from 15 years working in an acute oncology unit to culinary school, because I wanted to come back and prove to oncologists and dietitians who told people with cancer, it doesn't matter what you eat, just don't lose weight. You know, just eat what you can. And so that's why I went to culinary school. And yes, it does matter what you eat. Here's a study I just saw, came across, because I was looking for studies about lymphoma. I couldn't find anything specifically on WM. But patients with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, they consuming lots of vegetables and fruits, and for sure green leafy vegetables and citrus fruits seem to be helpful with prognosis, like surviving longer. And then in another study, they found that in general, consuming fruits and vegetables reduce mortality in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Also, they have designed diets to reduce fatigue. I know that is a symptom that sometimes you really have to deal with WM. And the first study was done in women with breast cancer, and this fatigue reduction diet, same kinds of foods I've been showing all along here, reduced fatigue. And then they trialed this diet in diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. And what they found is that the people who adhered to it each week, their adherence got better, the quality of their diet got better, and they had significantly less fatigue compared to when they started the intervention to the end of it. And so I've put the links here. You can look it up to see exactly what was in those diets, but basically we're kind of talking a Mediterranean diet. Other things that help with fatigue related to food, green tea. They found that people who drank it before surgery had less fatigue after surgery. And when you combine eating with other lifestyle practices like exercise, you get an even greater effect than either one alone. In other words, it does matter what you eat. And you might say, well, I know you might say, if it's good for you, it's going to be like taking medicine. It's not going to taste good. And yes, I've heard that if it tastes good, you probably shouldn't eat it, but I'm going to prove differently. So yes, it can be not only nourishing, but it can be delicious. So if you've decided you want to check this out a little bit, some principles, the plan of what you eat has to be affordable. It has to be readily available. If you're having to search all over the world or in different stores for the ingredients, that's going to make it tough. And then I'm going to go over 8 principles of food selection. I use these when I cook for the retreats for Smith Center for Healing in the Arts. I use it when I plan my menu for my family. I use them when I stand in front of the fridge because I forgot to plan what I was going to have for lunch, and I see how many of these principles can I include in this meal. And here they all are, and I'm going to go over each one of them. So whole food means that food that nature provides with it in all its edible parts. It doesn't mean you have to eat the chaff of the grain or the bark of the tree, but the edible parts. So eating a whole apple with the skin on it, I suggest you get it organic, is an example of eating a whole food, apple, as opposed to drinking apple juice, which we call a fragmented food in my culinary training. If you enjoy eating chicken, I suggest you cook it with the bone in. It's going to be moister, it's going to taste better, and there are minerals in the bone that will cook into the meat. It doesn't mean if you enjoy eating chicken that you sit down by yourself and eat it all. But you could take these bones. Sorry if any of you are vegetarians. You can just close your eyes on the slide. But you can take these leftover bones, and I'll take scraps of onions and carrots and garlic and celery, and I start putting them in a container in the freezer. And then I can make a bone broth when I'm ready for it. There you go. So here's a whole grain. I was singing about oat bran. There's 3 layers to a whole grain. There's the bran layer, which is this outer layer. Here's the germ. What's germ the first 4 letters of? What word? Germinate. If you soak a whole grain and then put it in soil or set it in a sprouter, it's going to sprout and begin to become a plant. So that whole grain has all life potential in it. And then the middle part, which in white flour would be, or white rice would be the endosperm. And so where are the nutrients? Well, in the bran and the germ is where you have most of your fiber and your nutrients. And then in the endosperm, which is mostly starch, it's very energy rich, so it'll give you energy, but it'll also raise your blood sugar fast, is the endosperm. And when you remove the bran and the germ, which is what they do when they refine a flour, you're losing all of this. Now, they're going to put things back in, fortified, but they usually don't put the fiber. And your body knows how much better how to deal with a whole grain than it does with a refined grain. So the whole thing is all the parts of the grain act together with each other. Like I said, when you have fiber and fat, when you eat a carbohydrate, it slows down the uptake of the sugars from that grain. So it's this beautiful harmony, and your body takes that in as nourishment. Some examples of whole grains. I put quinoa down here first because quinoa is the only grain that is a complete protein, meaning it has all the essential amino acids that you can only get through diet. Your body doesn't make them. So it's a complete protein. There's millet, brown rice, oats, barley, bulgur wheat. There are many, many more, but these are just examples of what I mean by whole grains. And a little culinary wonder. I am telling you this. I'm not going to charge you extra for this, but I had to pay a lot for it in culinary school. So if you add vinegar or another acid to a carbohydrate-containing food, that will decrease the glycemic index. So it could mean maybe you don't actually put vinegar in your rice unless you have like a rice salad, but if you have an acid in that meal, it will help reduce the glycemic index. And if you soak a whole grain, which is called sprouting, overnight in some water and add like a tablespoon of yogurt or kefir or something else acid, it's going to make it more easily digestible. You're going to absorb more minerals, particularly calcium, and it's going to cook faster with less liquid. And by the way, you drain it off after it's soaked and rinse it. Yeah. So quality, another principle is quality, fresh, frozen, canned, fermented foods. So the key is quality. And when you can choose fresh, it usually tastes better, has a better texture. But dehydrated food, naturally fermented foods have all their nutrients intact, and sometimes when you ferment something, it has even more nutrients. And frozen and canned food, the way they do it today, it's pretty nutritionally intact, not like it used to be. Some beets. I have some grown in my garden now. I had a lady at the checkout counter. I had fresh beets, and she goes, "What's this?" I said, "It's beets." She goes, "Oh, I thought they came in cans." Okay. So natural is another principle. So eating food grown or raised is naturally without harmful chemicals and pesticides and hormones. It also means eating food as close to the way it looked when it came out of the ground or off the bush, like eating a baked potato with the skin on as opposed to potato chips. And I am known to eat potato chips, so I'm not standing here like St. Laura, okay? No, orange Jell-O is not a natural way of eating oranges, pretty clear. Is organic better? Well, I would say yes, if you want to reduce the harmful chemical load in your body. And here's 2 chicken livers. Again, apologies to the vegetarians. The one on this side, my right, your left, comes from a chicken that was pastured and raised eating grass seed and bugs and those sorts of things. The one on the left, the package said all natural, no hormones, no antibiotics. But that chicken was not fed an organic diet or a normal chicken diet. It probably ate a lot of corn and stuff and soy. And look at that liver. It really had to work overtime to detoxify. Have you heard of the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15? So this is by the Environmental Working Group, and I carry it around. I have it on an app, but you can also go online, www.ewg@ewg.org, and they'll send you one in an email. And it changes every year. And I don't have the 2025 yet. And it changes because what the crops will need, which crops will need spraying if grown conventionally, changes year to year. Although strawberries pretty much always is on the Dirty Dozen, apples are pretty much always on it, but I've seen blueberries come in and out of the Dirty Dozen. But if I've got strawberries on my shopping list, I'm going to get those organic. But if I have asparagus and avocados on my shopping list, I'm not going to pay organic prices for that because rarely will they be sprayed. So this is a way you can make some decisions about your budget and what you're going to spend organic on. If it's processed, you got to learn to read the label. Peanut butter should have peanuts, but sometimes it can have these other things in it, like the second ingredient, sugar. If it's high on the list, no good. And then these oils that are in there, there was some testing, and they're not very high quality oils. This has peanuts, period. Look at this. Back to nature, plant-based snacks. Honey graham sticks probably have always been only plants in it. It's flour, right? It's from a plant. But they make you think this is really good, I should get these because they're plant-based. Well, look at the label, okay? Sugar is, after you have white flour, then you've got cane sugar, then a little bit down honey, then brown rice syrup, and then a bunch of stuff you can't pronounce. If you can't pronounce it, you gotta renounce it, all right? But anyone who eats a fresh, ripe strawberry can't say anything caustic or cruel for 15 minutes thereafter. If you're expecting a confrontation with someone, you might want to feed them strawberries first. Local, eating food that's grown locally means that it didn't have to travel a long way and increase the environmental footprint. They probably didn't have to put preservatives on it. If you go and buy it at the farmer's market, you can also ask them, how did you raise these? Some aren't certified organic, but they grow things organically. Natural food stores, some of your large chain grocery stores now carry it, or you can grow your own. Some of your farmers markets have SNAP benefits and the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program. Hopefully we will continue with those benefits, but call your farmers market or check out their webpage and see if they do, if that's something you use. Another principle is seasonal. Now, I'm going to say that now it's possible to get any kind of fruit or vegetable from all over the world right there in Publix. So something's in season somewhere in the world, but I mean in season where you live. Eating those foods help you adapt to your environment. So if it were the middle of winter, and I didn't live in Florida, but I live in Virginia, and it's cold, and I eat raw salads every day, I'm going to be cold, I'm going to get cranky. So no, I need to eat things like your winter squashes and dark leafy greens and potatoes and maybe a mushroom barley soup or something like that. So they take better care of you in season. And isn't it interesting that oranges are in season during cold and flu season? Wonder. This is Swiss chard. It's in season a long time, from spring through the fall. In harmony with tradition, you might say, well, I'm not used to eating green beans and whole grains. I don't even know which ones I'd like. Well, a good thing to do is find out what's your ancestry and what were the beans and grains eaten by people in the old country. It also makes for great conversation with people who remember those foods. And also think about your food rituals and emotional attachments. What are some of the food traditions of your faith and your culture? I work with Smith Center for Healing in the Arts in Washington, D.C., and we have trained navigators to go into the cancer navigators to go into some of the churches in African American churches and African immigrant communities. And they said, we want to do a healthy soul food cookbook. Is that possible? I said, the roots of soul food are very healthy. And so they turned in their favorite recipes from the islands and from the South here. And we kicked them up a notch. And we made sure every ingredient was available in their local grocery stores and came up with this book. It has some of my favorite recipes. I do have some copies here if you want a copy, and if you want to donate some money to Smith Center, just see me. Balance. This is dynamic. We talked about this from the beginning when we said you can't eat dogma. What you need now might not be the same as what you'll need if you go on chemotherapy. Your body might require different foods at different times, and you've got to accommodate it. And sometimes that's hard to do, especially if you have kids in the home and you're trying to feed them and somebody else and then yourself. But it's worth it. And a healthy balance. You want not only balance for your proteins and fats and your carbohydrates, but eat a rainbow a day. I went to Publix and got red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, and indigo. Let me cut this potato so you can see what I'm talking about. Look at the beautiful color in that potato. So you can actually get a rainbow a day right there at your local grocery store. And balance for textures, tastes, and cooking methods. This guy called and asked me, help me please, my food, it doesn't taste good. And he boiled everything, no wonder. And now he's a great cook. I have to say I take some credit for that. And balance for quantity. And let's talk about the New American Plate. This is the American Institute for Cancer Research. They talk about at least 2/3 of your plate coming from plants, and let most of those plants be vegetables, and most of those vegetables not be a big blob of potatoes, okay? And then 1/3 can come from like a quarter, 4 ounces of chicken or fish in that plate, or you can make this a totally all-plant plate, like this one here is a totally plant-based plate, and the protein is coming mostly from the black beans and the rice. And then I opened a can of tuna fish one day. This is during the pandemic. I wasn't going to the grocery store too much, and I seasoned it up and put the breadcrumbs in it and made this little quick lunch for myself. My breakfast of champions, sunshine in the middle. I saute whatever greens I have on hand and maybe throw in some mushrooms or what have you, little onion powder, garlic powder. Then I make a little hole in the middle, crack the egg in the middle, cover it and steam it, and then it's gone. A balanced view. We love to hear good news about our bad habits. And then that makes us overdo it. Remember when they came out and said dark chocolate is very healthy for you, full of phytonutrients and resveratrol. And so what do we do now? We're going to stash up on dark chocolate and start eating a whole bar every day. And no one particular food is a demon or a panacea. So you can't just live off pomegranate juice or and what we need is not a magic bullet, but as one doctor said, a magic shotgun. And everything in moderation, including moderation. I am going to have some dairy-free ice cream. I scouted out a place down the street from here. So, I'll have my little bit of ice cream once in a while. And then it has to taste great. And I'm going to get into that in just a minute. But I wanted to mention a few things about eating awareness. You can read this when you get the slides. But I wanted to focus on this one here. Check your hunger level before eating. And when you eat to three-quarters full. I mean 3/4 of your stomach. Does anybody here cook? Okay, you want to boil, let's say you have a bunch of potatoes. Oh no, let's make it rice. And you fill the pot to the rim with water, and then you turn it on boil. What's going to happen? It's going to boil over, right? And then what's on the bottom is probably going to get mushy, and what's on the top is not going to be cooked all the way. Well, think of your stomach as a pot. Any pot needs some air in the top, some room. And so you want to fill it to 2/3 full so you have room for digestion. If you fill it too full, you're going to get reflux, right? And then some of your food is not going to be all the way cooked when it gets into your intestines, and you might have gas and indigestion. So what your stomach can hold to make 2/3 is your 2 cupped handfuls. And if you chew the food well, you can get more food in you. I've learned that. So if you don't chew well, you're not going to be able to, you're going to have less food that fits in here. But that's really important, not to overdo it. and drink small amounts of room temperature or warm liquids when you eat, as opposed to dousing out your gastrointestinal fire with cold liquids. And rest a little bit after your meal. Your midday meal is when usually your digestive fire is the highest, and eat what you enjoy, for heaven's sake. And I am not going to go over each of these references, but you have them here. The Anti-Cancer Lifestyle Program has even a special webinar that they recorded on creating a body that cancer doesn't like, which is about terrain balance. And if you sign up for Cancer Choices newsletter, you can get access to Rebecca Katz's Cancer Fighting Kitchen course for free. She's taking it down in September, so get it now. But even when she does take it down, she's given us permission to put it all into an ebook. So sign up and you'll get lots of great stuff from Cancer Choices. And now, after you think about the whole eating experience, which is really the nourishing part of this, and get involved in the prepping and the eating and the yum and the because you can't sleep well, love well, or think well unless you've eaten well. And let's see, where's my guy? Because we got to change to the demo. Well, yes. Cheese? Cheese. Yeah, I don't eat cheese because I have a sensitivity to dairy. And some people do have a lactose intolerance, and sometimes that can get worse or come about during chemotherapy. So if you, and I did mention yogurt, right? So fermented cheese, get a good quality. I would say if you can get it from organic pastured animals, would be a better choice. Dr. Keith Block, who's an integrative oncologist, he favors low-fat dairy. I would say in moderation, and if your intestinal tract handles it, cheese, especially if it's a fermented cheese, can help with your microbiome. So, yeah. But, and you don't put tons of Parmesan on it, right? Everything, how much is good to build flavor. Now, I know there are people who are listening to this, there's a guy who's going to come in here and turn everything on for the demo, but until that time, I know I need to proceed. So I'll wait till Brian gets here. So I'm talking to people here virtually, right? So some people. But can I have 2 volunteers to taste? I'll tell you what's in it so that if it's something you can't eat, you don't come up here and volunteer. We're going to learn the steps to delicious by making a holy guacamole. And that's WHOLLY. And I call it that because the recipe calls for adding peas, and I'm going to use frozen green peas, or you could use cooked split peas. But that adds protein, especially if you eat it with some sort of whole grain. When you combine a bean with a whole grain or some other plant protein, then you get a complete protein. So I call it holy guacamole because it's provides more protein than if just you eat regular guacamole. So it has peas and onions and garlic and avocado and lime juice and parsley. So if 2 people who can eat those things would come up here and help me build the flavor in this, I would really appreciate it. All right, yay, give them a hand. Who's this?
And when there was an article in the New York Times years ago about peas and avocado, that was, are you kidding?
I know.
And guacamole, peas?
And what did you think?
Very un-Texan.
Yeah.
I've never done it.
Oh, okay, so you haven't tried it. All right, Sandy, and one other person. Because, everybody's opinions are different about food. Okay, great. And you are? Jo Beth and Sandy. All right. So I'm going to talk through a few things that don't require you looking at a camera and seeing what I'm doing. So until I'm hedging, for Jesse to come back in. Yeah.
I'm gonna knock on that door, maybe?
He has to go and check on other places. So, yeah. Yep. So, to build the steps to delicious. She's not shy. Yeah. He'll be back. He knows. And by the way, you're all going to get to taste this. Yeah, we need to switch to the camera. Okay. So, to build flavor, there's two parts of it. First of all, you need to think fast. The right amount of fat, acid, salt, and sweet. And then to that, I add BAP, bitter, astringent, and pungent. So that gets all the flavors in that they talk about in Ayurveda. So I'm going to talk about what each of those does. And then we're going to start building flavor in this recipe. Okay. So what does fat? What is the fat that's going to be in this dish? Avocado. Great. Yes, other fats that one can use. I mentioned you can have nuts and seeds. You can have oils like extra virgin olive oil. It depends on the recipe. So what fat does, it carries the flavor, culinary-wise. It carries the flavor across your tongue like a little oil slick. Then as far as physiologically what it does for you, you need fat for your hormones. You need the fat for the linings of your nerves. And so many processes depend on fats in your body. The second ingredient in building flavor is acid. So what's the acid in guacamole? Yeah, so we're going to have lime juice. But you could use really sour fruits like tamarind to get sort of that acid flavor. Or you could use vinegar, lemon juice. So the acid, what it does to the food, and if you've ever eaten ceviche, it doesn't really cook it, but it looks like that shrimp has been cooked, right? Because the acid breaks open the cells, and it makes the food look like it's been cooked. And when you break the cells open, hey, that's where some of the taste is, right? So the acid. And then salt. Well, let me give you sweet first. So the sweet in this recipe is actually the peas. And you don't want guacamole to taste really sweet. But you'll notice, like a lot of Chinese cooking, they'll have a little sweet in it. Or some of your salad dressings will have a little bit of sweet, even in a savory dish. So sweet, first of all, when it hits your tongue, hits your taste buds, it goes to your brain, the pleasure center, and says, I like that. I want more. And that is a survival instinct, right? Because we had to find that energy, in food. And so the plants make themselves sweet, and then we eat the seeds and spread them other places, and they grow more of their trees, and it keeps us interested in the food, and we need it. You also need glucose for energy, so it has a physiological effect. And then salt. And you could use, I'm going to use sea salt. You could use something salty like miso to add salt, or maybe a salted pickled kind of thing. But salt is the true seasoning ingredient. Oh, good, we're up. It's the true seasoning ingredient, meaning it increases the flavor of whatever it's in. Have you seen, you're in Texas, you eat watermelon, right? You see people put salt on it? Yeah. Well, that increases the sweetness of it if you put enough. Yeah, in fact, in some desserts I make, before I add more sweetener, I might add a little salt to bring it up. So it brings up the flavor of whatever it's in. And I'm talking about the right amount of everything, not lots. So you have to kind of balance it. And then we're going to have onions and parsley. So parsley is bitter, onion is pungent, And when you cook onions, they get caramelized, right? So then they can be sweet. And then we're going to have some herbs and spices, coriander and cumin, and we'll put garlic. Can you eat garlic? Okay. And then jalapeno. Can you eat jalapeno? Okay. Now the kitchen has prepared some for all of y'all, and I haven't had a chance to taste it. Yeah, I'm from Louisiana, chef.
Okay.
All right. And I don't know what jalapenos they used, but I tell you what, in case it's really, is there anybody here who doesn't like spicy food? Okay, so I'm going to make this one without the jalapenos in case the kitchen brings some that's like, hotter than the hinges of Hades, and then you can have that. Okay, if you will come over here, Sandy, so that the people looking at the camera, so I didn't have a chance to prep this ahead of time because I couldn't get in here. The other class went over. So I'm going to start with the peas. I know you're not going to like this. And the onions and the parsley. And by the way,
You use scallions, the
Yes.
greener part of scallions as opposed to onion.
that's right.
Okay.
The green onions. Yeah, here. So I'm going to make that first, and with nothing in it, no salt, none of the fat, so it's not really guacamole at this point because it doesn't have avocados in it. And let you just taste it. There we go. All right. Not my food processor. What'd you say?
I said I got one of those.
Yeah, this is a nice one, a robo-coupe they call it. So it sounds like a car.
Very, very quiet.
Yeah. All right. So it's not really grinding up these peas too well. So that's good because I'm going to get you to rate it on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is yuck and 10 is absolutely delicious. And so we'll start off with this. Actually, I think I'll throw a few more peas. Is there anyone, well, I didn't tell y'all to wash your hands. Where's our assertive person? Yes, would you mind going to the bathroom, washing your hands, and helping cut up these avocados? It's right around the corner. All right. So I have spoons for you, and I have the mother spoon, so you don't double dip in here. And this is not really chopping up super well. I'm going to tell them they need to. So anyway, this is without any seasoning. Okay. Bon appetit. And rate it on a scale of 0 to 10 for deliciousness. Some people think it's really good.
It does have a little sweetness.
Yeah,
The sweetness wasn't there at
In the
first,
beginning,
but it
yes.
did.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to notice what you taste, because as we add more and more things. I just heard an emergency room physician saying that the most common injury they get are people cutting avocados with a knife like this. These avocados are a little firm here. So let me. Oh, do you know this trick?
Yeah.
All right.
It doesn't always work.
No, like right now, because he wouldn't give me a chef's knife. They don't trust me with their chef's knife. All right. There's an avocado right there. If you could cut that
Oh, what
one.
happened to these?
I'm going to have you scoop the rest of them out. Yeah. So, but that one's softer. because this food processor is not really. But that tastes, so you didn't give me a number there.
Say 8-ish, 7, 8.
Wow. Yeah, it could go downhill from here.
This is
The one you just did.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, the first part, it tastes like,
I'd say about a 6.
yeah, 6 or 7.
Okay, I don't want to influence
Don't do
you.
this one. This one's-
It's too hard.
It looks too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if y'all want to ask me some questions while I'm doing this, I can sometimes talk and cook at the same time. What are the proportions? So you'll get the recipe, but that was about a cup of peas, and we're going to do.
These are, I think they're going to be too hard.
Okay. Well, let's see if this can manage chopping these up.
Here. Need anything else, or you think that's good?
I think that's good. I may have to have you run back to the kitchen saying, hey, your food processor isn't, no, it's okay. We'll make it work.
Is that the hotels?
Yes. And they were scrounging around for it. So, but I'm assuming what they're going to bring you is nice and well chopped up. All right, we're getting a little. Okay, I've got some of it mashed in. You want to give me your spoon? So now, this may not change the taste, but it may change the sensation of it in your mouth.
Better?
It's better, okay? What do you notice? Uh-huh.
Creamier?
Creamier. Does it taste different in your mouth? They call it a mouthfeel.
Milder.
Milder, okay. Yeah, I would
Because
think.
an avocado is milder and it kind of neutralizes the onion.
Right, okay. So now I'm going to add the acid. This is a lime that's not wanting to give me very much either. So one of the ways you can get the juice out of a lemon or a lime is to use a fork, and you just kind of keep pressing it in there. And these limes, yeah. And if it has seeds in it, then you might want to do it over a little sieve, you know, a little strainer. Now, I'll tell you about how I select limes. And when you have a big hotel like this, they're going to get what comes off the truck, right? Unless they go down to the market, which I kind of doubt that they can do that for this many people. But I choose citrus fruits that have a thin skin, right? And they tend to be juicier inside. So this one wasn't the thinnest. And I'm going to start tasting this too, because I know what it's supposed to taste like. All right. So I touched your spoon with the mother spoon, so I want to. There you go. Tell me if we're getting any better on the scale. I have a feeling that's not enough acid. I don't think that's gotten the acid in here. Does it need more acid?
Yeah, I'd put a little more.
And you should be able to taste the acid and the sweet kind of together. A lot more lime. Okay. Now, one thing I'll say, most things you make need some time, T-I-M-E, but especially when you add an acid, because it gets absorbed somewhat, and things might taste too sour at first, and then not sour enough. So you come back a little later, but we won't have time to do that, so we're just going to get it where it's enough for now. Is it getting better? What did you notice with the lime? It's a very strong flavor. By the way, I went to this Latin food restaurant in Asheville, North Carolina, and they had limeade with rosemary. And it was really delicious. Tell me if we're getting there. Yep, that helped. More lime? Okay, put it all in.
Going.
All right, well, wait till I add the salt. We haven't had salt in here. I'm telling you, salt is like the miracle.
On your dinner now.
Yeah, no, yeah. And then you'll have to taste it on a chip or something.
But how much is too much salt? Because, you know,
Well, so when,
sodium, terrible, bad, heart,
well,
everything else.
so you need the minerals that come from salt. I had a cardiologist freaking out when I was putting salt in something, one for a class. And I said, you know, it's not like I'm using that much. So read the recipe, and, you know, if it says salt to taste, then just add a little bit at a time. And as you cook, if you add the salt as you cook, then waiting afterwards to salt it, you'll end up using less salt. And I use sea salt because it doesn't have bleaches in it, nor does it have dextrose. So they add dextrose to most table salt. And that's a sugar, right? So it's going to reduce the saltiness of it, and you'll end up probably feeling like you need more.
But kosher salt seems pretty popular.
Yes,
Rate that.
kosher salt. The thing is, it's usually coarse, and it's a little harder when you're doing something where it's not going to cook into it. So now this has some salt, and I'm going to start tasting now.
Oh, so we've been the guinea pigs up to now.
Yeah, you have been.
Big time.
And tell me if this. What does that mean?
I mean, it's good.
Are we there?
Brought it out.
Getting there.
I agree. It needs
Yeah, and get some spice.
it needs more lime juice. I'm going to put
What's
some.
that?
What was that?
That's cumin. Here's a little coriander.
That
Cumin and coriander.
was a lot of cumin.
Boy, the salt made a difference, doesn't it? So I'm going to put a little more lime juice and then mix it up. We'll call it a day. Does anybody, where are those people bringing your snacks? They were supposed to come in here at about 4:45. What time is it? I hope they didn't forget about us. If they did, I'm going to bring it to the reception. And I'm going to say, you were in the class. Okay. And I think it probably still needs a little more salt. All right. So we went from okay to Would you say it's delicious?
Yeah.
Can you believe it has peas in it?
No, I can't.
Oh, wow.
Cumin kind of knocked it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got the peas. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
what do you
it doesn't really
think?
taste, but you know you're doing something good.
Yeah,
for yourself.
yeah. So what do you think?
It's good.
Okay, great. Well, there you have it.
Who would have thought?
Oh, here. Try it in context.
What about all the olive oil and
That,
that's
I'm not
something
going to
else?
add it.
Okay.
I don't think it needs it. And then I'll let you try it on a... It always helps to try it in context. Now, that's salty, the chip.
Not too much.
This is going to be less
No, I don't
salty.
want mine. I'm good.
Okay, you want to try it on the cucumber? Okay. Good. All right, there you have it. So,
Interesting on a vegetable.
Yeah, I put it on carrots, celery sticks, jicama. So I slice jicama to look like little chips. It's delicious on jicama. And jicama is like an apple and potato got married and had a child. It's used a lot in Mexico. It's a vegetable. It's very fibrous. It's disc-shaped. It's light brown on the skin, and it's white in the center and very juicy. It has a lot of inulin in it, which is considered a prebiotic. And
It's hard to peel.
yeah, it's hard to peel, but very delicious. So anything you put any other kind of spread on it would be good. I'm going to stick my head out here because they made a whole bunch of food for y'all.
How do we get the,
Uh-huh.
how do we get the notes from
I guess they're going to upload them on the website or send them to you. Let me check and see. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we've been ready. Okay, they've been ready. God bless them. Y'all give them a hand when they come in with the food. Well, and you all can write to me. I'm happy to answer questions, and I do sessions if you want through Smith Center for free.